Hey, Port City. Chris has asked me to do a Friday devotional for the time being. So, as we're kind of in this weird time of online church and not being able to actually kind of meet together as we would like, if we move forward, we're going to be releasing a lot of stuff through the Facebook page and through Port City Online. And so, Lydia and I will be part of that. And so before we get into kind of the devotional today, we're going to kick it over to Lydia and have her lead us in worship.
I cast my mind to Calvary, where Jesus bled and died for me. I see his wounds, his hands, his feet, my Savior on that cursed tree. His body bound and drenched in tears, they laid him down in Joseph's tomb, the entrance sealed by heavy stone. Messiah still and all alone. Oh, praise the name of the Lord our God. Oh, praise his name forevermore. For endless days we will sing your praise. Oh Lord our God. And on the third, at break of dawn, the Son of Heaven rose again. Oh, trample death, where is your sting? The angels roar for Christ the King. Oh, praise the name of the Lord our God. Oh, praise his name forevermore. For endless days we will sing your praise. Oh Lord our God. He shall return in robes of white. The blazing sun shall pierce the night, and I will rise among the saints, my gaze transfixed on Jesus' face. Oh, praise the name of the Lord our God. Oh, praise his name forevermore. For endless days we will sing your praise. Oh Lord our God. For endless days we will sing your praise. Oh Lord our God.
All right, so today we're going to be talking about a story in Acts. A story that I think kind of has new significance for us in this kind of quarantine coronavirus time. Now, in Acts, we get this story of the early church together. After Jesus' ascension and after Pentecost, the early church is together and they are kind of crushing it. They are serving each other, they're serving their communities and doing just great work and truly embodying what Christ meant when he established the church. But then we get this story where this guy named Stephen, who's kind of like the head of the ancient Meals on Wheels programs, gets dragged in front of the religious elite, and he gives this big speech kind of summing up the gospel story culminating in Christ. And then at the end of his story, he points to the religious elite and said, and you are the ones who crucified him. And they don't like to hear that all that much, so they drag him out and they stone him to death. Now this is the story where they lay their coats in front of Saul, who is Paul. And then we pick up this story. And we're just going to read a couple verses from Acts 8, and I think it really kind of holds significance to where we are today. And there arose on that day a great persecution against the church in Jerusalem, and they were all scattered throughout the regions of Judea and Samaria, except the apostles. Devout men buried Stephen and made a great lamentation over him. But Saul was ravaging the church, and entering house after house, he dragged off men and women and committed them to prison. Now those who were scattered went around preaching the word. Now that's kind of an interesting place to stop, but as it transitions into this next story about Philip, we get that quick little verse. Now those who were scattered went around preaching the word. We as a church aren't scattered per se, but we aren't together as we'd like. We are in our houses, we are social distancing, and we are not meeting together as we've done and as we'd like. But in that comes the challenge of the early church and the challenge of the scattering to preach the word. Now we have this unique opportunity laid out in front of us through a terrible circumstance. And actually, we serve a God who is unbelievable at redeeming terrible circumstances. God is actually such a good redeemer that oftentimes we say bad things happen so good things can come out of them. And I don't necessarily think God works that way, but I think God is just such a good redeemer that it confuses us. And so in a time where we're kind of scared for our loved ones, as a time when we're really kind of afraid to go outside, as a time where there's all this information that we're not really sure what's true, one thing that remains true is that God can redeem it. And so, as the church, let's preach the word and see what God does. Now, preaching the word in your life could look like sharing toilet paper, right? It could look like reaching out to those around you, to the at-risk population in your life, reconnecting with your grandparents or with your friends who have a autoimmune deficiency or anything. But then what it can really look like too is just actually reaching out to your literal neighbor and saying, hey, do you need anything? We got a lot. What it could also look like in this preaching of the word is preaching hope in all avenues that you have. I think we all agree that social media and Facebook and Twitter and everything else can be a dark time in dark times. So what if we were trying to spread a little light? Maybe focus on the good things that happen in your house that day. A family movie, a family dinner, any kind of little victory that God gives. Because it's times where we always want to do the big thing that we miss the things that we're actually called to do. It'd be wonderful if somebody in Port City could cure the coronavirus. That would be amazing. But I speak for myself when I say that I definitely can't, and I think that if we're being honest with ourselves, many of us aren't equipped to do that. But what we are equipped to do is to love God and love our neighbors. That's what we've been preaching, and that's what we've been practicing. So let's preach it and practice it some more. This time of quarantine, this time of social distancing, and this time of not being able to meet together does not have to be a dark time, even though it is a dark time. This can be redeemed by God, and through our scattering, we can preach the word.